So we would like to now give the floor to Nerina.
Thank you so much, Marco, for having me. And I'm really happy to share together also with your contribution, a project that we have as partners have been working for a couple of and discovered. And the project is named Fair News, and is all about, I would say, fake news and fair news. I might start sharing with you some of the ideas that brought us to this project. And I would also then like to hear from the people joining this conversation, what they think about what we are doing and about this huge topic of fair fake news. Marco, can I share my screen or?
Yes, I think you're allowed.
Thank you so much. Please tell me if you see then what you are supposed to see. Perfectly. Also, the problem of media disinformation has been compared to an atomic bomb in our information ecosystem, a problem so insidious that it allows a hate, anger, and conspiracy theory to spread faster than truth. In the words of the journalist and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa, it makes democracy a dream. And I like very much this quote because this is what I would like also you to reflect on. Why are disinformation and fake news so relevant for democracies, but in general for society? From war in Ukraine to COVID-19, now conflict in the Middle East, disinformation today is shaping major global events. And I would like to recall you what happens when we started, but when COVID started, it was very early in 2020 that the Director General of the World Health Organization said in Munich, in Germany, during a conference, we are not just fighting an epidemic, we are fighting an infodemic. Fake news spreads faster and more easily than this virus and is just as dangerous. And if we don't tackle this, we are headed down a dark path that leads nowhere but division and disharmony. And for the World Health Organization, not about in general, really for the World Health Organization, this is what they say, why media disinformation is important. It makes it difficult to identify accurate, evidence-based public health information and advice, contribute to anxiety, worry, and other mental health issues because of its quantity, accessibility, and visibility everywhere. Let people to take misleading or even dangerous advice, build fatigue, disinterest, and animosity towards public health messages, and encourage xenophobia, hate, and exclusion. What I would like to reflect you now is because if we read about disinformation related to health, we assume that there is a truth. We assume that there are disinformation and there are correct information. This is also about the problem that I have the wrong information. But it's much more complicated, actually. As a European Commission fact sheet said, for example, there are nearly 1.3 billion websites, 3.7 billion users daily to exchange information. Online manipulation and disinformation have been used in at least 18 countries during election in recent years. And according to Europa Barometer opinion poll, 83% of the Europeans think fake news is a threat to democracy. Disinformation is a long existing phenomenon. This is the fact that we live in the social media era as only, if you want, make this problem even bigger, faster, and because information can be produced much easily and widely disseminated and promoted. But how we work with information and disinformation has always existed. And since September 2015, for example, there are more than 3,900 examples of pro-Kremlin disinformation available. That you can really track down that they are trying to bring up disinformation in the public sphere. And the urgency of tackling fake news, why there is an urgency of reflecting about this, undermining trust in the media and the democratic institution, influencing political processes and creating social division, rapidly spread through digital media amplified through algorithms, and changing and evolving, including increasingly sophisticated AI. The OECD program for international student assessment found that only about 30% of European students demonstrate a high level of proficiency in critical thinking, problem-solving skills. And a 2021 survey by the European Broadcasting Union revealed that 59% of European teenagers had encountered fake news online, highlighting the need for robust media literacy education. And approximately 40% of European teachers report needing more training in digital literacy to effectively teach these skills to their students. I would like to emphasize the fact that it's really not a problem of only of young people or students. It's a problem that affects all generations. And for some of the students that we have interviewed for this work, say, I actively avoid news about politics as it frustrates me. It makes me feel small, and no matter what my views, it won't make any difference at all to what goes on in the country of world. So there is no point listening to it. Now, I would like, if somebody would like to share, why do you think that fair news is an issue? Or what is your opinion about the fact, I will stop the sharing. What, if somebody would like to add something about why do you think that fake news plays a role? Or what do you think is a role that, for example, artificial intelligence can add to this conversation right now? Before I continue with what actually the project was about, what is your reflection, or what would you like to expect out of this conversation?
There's also in the chat, it says in politics it's very easy to be abused. Yeah, I mean, and I agree. Sorry, research shows that a large, if not the biggest part of youth receive their news through social media channels. So this is, I mean, these are obviously changing ways in which we receive the news, but it can also be a bit worrisome because we need to make sure that the facts that we receive or the information that we receive as facts is actually factual and it's not being manipulated. It's important for everybody to be aware on the bias of the news or if the sources are real. I mean, everybody can post anything at any time on live stream. You know, there's TikTok and Instagram and anything, so you can see really live what something might be going on in a conflict. For example, now with the conflict in the Middle East or in Ukraine, Russia, that people are posting live and we don't know exactly what is happening, the context, or who's posting it, or with what end, or so on. So it's important for especially youth to understand the issues that may arrive through this. So, for example, in the COVID situation that we heard, I mean, everybody here, I think, has very marked remembering how COVID was and how we received the information at the beginning and the misconstruction of ideas and so on that were spreading out. So, for example, with the vaccine, so many issues around it and so on. When we start sharing information that is not real or is not factual and so on, we start creating this generalized fear, something. So it is important to be aware, to be literate in media and how we receive the news, and to be critical on how we perceive and how we read and how we receive everything that we consume, especially in social media.
Yes, and please, you can raise your hand and please intervene, because I think that's there are different aspects here. One, and I am only anticipating some things. Every one of us, each of us, as a series of values and a way of seeing the world. And here comes together two different aspects. One is the way in which information on social media are created and shared. And second, the power of the social media platforms that obviously, as you know better than me, they are able to understand what you like and what you do not like, because they want obviously you staying longer on the platform. So what has been done actually in order to support marketing is it happens also for content. This means that if I am more left or if I am more right, automatically I will get more information that reinforce my position. This is one point. So that in a way, the more I think that I am informed, the more my bubble will reinforce, automatically reinforce. So that I am more left, I will get more statement that reinforce my position, and if I'm right, the same. So it happens that it gets really polarized, because the people on the left, they will read more on the left, and the right the same. And the other thing is that we could speak more about this, but also the data, you can present the data in a different ways, even presenting the same data. And I will take yes, opinion for radicalization. Exactly. And so this is one of the biggest problem that happens with social media. And as Marco said, there are all the fact that it is out of context. It's very difficult to read the context, to read out the context. Or a couple of, I do not remember, 2 years ago, there was an article that said something like, it is probably not correct how I mention it, but it was about Trump having taken, was paid to build something abroad or whatever. This was the title. And then if you read the article, actually in the article say that they found out that it was not true. But 99% of the people, they will say, obviously, you know, that you are happy if something bad happened to reinforce the fact that Trump is a bad president, so that you, but if you read them, they were another information. So it's very difficult to follow. There is from Hannah, fake news can often be shocking, and so it motivates people to click on the title of those news to read it. The person who has published those news benefit from it, but the reader ends up being misinformed and more fake informed and spread. You are completely right, because this is also one of the big effects that as a journalist we know that you try to have a catchy title, and there is what is the balance between a catchy title and a title that exaggerates? What is the balance between trying to make it appealing, and what is the balance between making a little bit fake, but fake enough that I convince you to read it. So there are methods that are, you know, also at school, you know, that the teacher would teach you how to write a good paper. And this is the beginning, right? And at some point, like how I make people listen to me. And this is when it starts being, you know, probably, or don't know if you have followed, but a couple of years ago, a very well-known journalist of Der Spiegel in Germany, he got a lot of award, and he wrote an article about, sorry for mentioning again, it's not my favorite topic, but by chance, it happens that I now mention again about Trump and the people voting for Trump. And he made a portrait of a village in the USA, actually reconfirming all the bias that we Europeans would have about the voters. And it turned out that it was fake. So it was not fake, the fact that he was there, but he made up statement, he made up stories. So that this very well-known journalist, he was creating the articles that he knew the people would love to read. So this is where we end up, right? The journalist trying to serve the audience that he is serving, actually. Do you have a suggestion from your personal experience how to write a catchy title? Yes. Yeah, this is yeah, this is an art to do it, but it's always I always say they see the same for video or for articles. They think that it impresses you the most. What you think? So I make only an example of a video instead of a title. Once I made a documentary about in Munich about there is the production of the big airplane, and I went in with my team with the camera, and I was very impressed by the turbine, right? So I felt it was amazing, right? And we made this, and then I started writing this, and the chief producer at the time, she told me, you cannot start with the turbine, right? So you have to start like, like you describe where you are. And I told her, no, let me do it. And she told me, you can do it, but if you mess it up, then, you have a problem, right? But, it was a very nice video. But what I say, this is my approach, that you have to find what you think, what catch your attention. It's going to be what catch also other people's attention. So that is the way to try to really to play around with words, but in the same time to make them meaningful. So to have a symbol, balance between symbol and sound. As it is nice, it has to be nice from a wording perspective, but also from a symbolic content perspective. Now, if you do not have at the moment other question, I would go very quickly along our short presentation about what we have done by Fair News, and then we can get back to some questions. And as we were saying, stories for a human as water is for a fish, all encompassing, not quite palpable. Why this quote here? Because what we were saying, actually stories are really everywhere. This is where we are made of. And I would add that not only is we are a storytelling animal, as Jonathan Gottschall says, but we are also social animals. Also, we live together, and we live from the stories that we tell each other. So that the greatest obstacle to progress is not the absence of knowledge, but the illusion of knowledge. And this is the biggest problem with the fake news or fake news. And in general, this is the big issue that I think we are going to deal in the next years, because also with artificial intelligence, you know better than me, there is a huge amount of content that has been created. And there are a lot of images, there are a lot of videos that can be created, so that the question, how do I know if I know what I know, is very, very relevant. And this is exactly the approach that we had in this project that is led by Spazio Reale. It's an association in Italy, and we had a partner, 363, my company from Sweden, and then 4 association from Vienna Vibe, from Romanian, Bulgarian, and I said Italy. And now, what do you see inside this circle? What 13? Is this?
13 or a B.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you see inside the circle? So how do you see it? As you see is the power of context, right? Based on in which row you see it, you would think it's a 13 or it's a B. And this is probably you have done, and you have seen such example many, many times, right? If I would ask you which of the 2 circles is bigger, probably each of you would say that this circle surrounded by the smaller is bigger. But believe me, they have the same size. And if you have been in some illusion museum, or if you have seen probably these illusions, you know exactly what this is. And you are saying, okay, they are visual illusion. But the amazing thing by this, that they are not only, that these are only visible examples, but in the same, exactly in the same way, we see things, we understand things differently based on what the context that it is there. And so it is the same for sounds, it's the same for information, so that we need to remind ourselves that in the same way as we are critical when we see this, we need to be critical with our other senses, if you want, and what our mind is, where our mind is triggering us. So that the most important thing is that we are critical with ourselves and also with our own perception, right? How do we encourage students to evaluate sources and consider evidence when readily accessible channels of sharing knowledge have multiplied massively? When accurate information is often swamped by hasty misinformation, heavily biased accounts, or deliberate lies, and when people following their own media streams tend to reject any contrary information offered by others. So the idea that we had, and I don't want to bother you too much with this, but the idea that we had was in some international school, they have at the international bachelor level, and if some of you is at one of these schools, you might know about it. But the last 2 years of the international bachelor, they have a subject named Theory of Knowledge, and it's not a graded subject, but it's a mandatory subject. And we have been inspired by this subject. We have not followed the same structure, but we have taken on some idea. And the idea is that we can start asking ourselves, how do I know things that I know in general? So theory of knowledge teaches critical thinking, examine how we know what we claim to know. So really basic, how do I know that I am alive? How do I know that what I see outside is green? And it emphasizes different perspectives, values. Now viewpoints might vary. What is actually knowledge? How do we know what we claim to know? What are the different ways of knowing? How do I perceive the perception, reason, emotion, language? To what extent does knowledge depend on the knower? And how do we evaluate knowledge claims? And the theory of knowledge helps to navigate the modern media landscape, understand discourses of knowledge information, participate in democracy, make your voice heard, and share your experience. Now, I will only share with you shortly, if it works well for me to switch. Let me see if it happens. This is our website, and here you can find all the deliverables that I will share with you now, so that you might read more about this. But first, I will show you this. There are some comments saying, perhaps you have some, we know some of them, we only use 10% of our brains. If you swallow chewing gum, it will stay in your system for 7 years. Cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. I've been blaming my son for this for weeks, until he came with a very deep research showing me that is not true. Mom, stop it, it's not true. But I really told him all the time. Boys get angry when they see the color red. There are some of the assumptions that you see not only said in social media, right? But we heard something and we think, yeah, this is true. But where do we know this? How do we get to know this thing? And how do we get to believe these things? Also, for this framework for innovative pathways in the use of theory of knowledge, if you are curious about this, also it's a cross-disciplinary project-based learning, and you will find here a lot of exercise that you can do, some of the numbers that I've shown you, and you can really go through and reflect what is critical thinking, conscious decision, also, and really deepen the understanding of the theory of knowledge. And the other that you are going to find is, sorry, I am a little bit down, more than I thought. This is another output where we have the young student that have been working with us. They have analyzed from their own country, for example, fair news in Romania, and they analyze why it is an issue. And in this case, for example, they analyze the aspect of influencer. And what they have done, they have analyzed how you can become an influencer. And because if you understand what are the, if you want the tricks to do it, then you can analyze how, not only to become one if you want, but also to understand what are the elements that I have to consider, you know, taxi to become an influencer, the storytelling, the anticipation, the interaction, how to share story. And they started also analyzing, for example, what kind of content matters, and they analyze Instagram, they analyze what how the algorithm works, how they have been changed over the last years. You know better than me. A couple of years ago, you needed to post pictures, and now then you had to go for stories. Then you had to make reels. Now it's very important that the caption is very long, for example, or that you have comments on it. And so that is really to understand, how to tackle this. And what we have done, and I will stop here because you can then go and see more about this. The most important thing is to understand, and here is again the report that we have done, but what I would point out and then deepen the conversation with you is the word after word after word is power. As what we have been working with our students is said the theory of knowledge on one end, and it is a way really to ask, if you want, very, very basic question about a different reality. And for example, in the international bachelor schools, the student, they take on one question that they like, but it is the method that is relevant. And because right now, it is not, in my opinion, it's not important that we have, it's important we have knowledge, obviously, but you are always access to knowledge. What we need to learn is how to find the knowledge, how to evaluate the knowledge, how to question the knowledge, and to have this critical thinking approach to it. Based, obviously, to the new situation that we have with social media, but it can be reflected on all pieces of content that we do. Then the second part is this obviously media literacy, but also, and you will find in our deliverables, how to make, there was a question, right? How do I write a story? How do I produce my own content? How can I build up my research? How can I create a good interview? And how do I structure what kind of title do I have? And nowadays, it is very, very good to think in a trans storytelling, if you want. So you have the stories start at a point, and then you share it in different pieces on different social media and different platforms, so that it's also a reflection of where do I want to present my story. If I want to present my story, how do, I write it, and going through from a, if you want, theory of knowledge, and simply said is a critical thinking, if you want, related to knowledge, to being also an active creator of content and a conscious participant of social media. Somebody of you said also that by reading something that it seems shocking or it seems not true, in that moment, by reading it, I emphasize this piece of content, and I give this piece of content also visibility, so that our actions have also a reflect on social media. And what I personally, I'm very passionate about, and I would like to share with you, is that it's very difficult nowadays to define what is true, and not only what is human on one hand, but also what is true. And I think we need to learn to embrace the uncertainty. Also, and I go back to how I started. One of the problems during COVID was that the scientists were saying, because they are scientists and they were researching, and it is normal for a scientist to say, we are still researching. So that we as a society, we need to embrace the uncertainty of research. We are still researching, and to embrace also the fact that a story is always a point of view. And even in the way in which we present data, it is always a presentation based on a decision on which kind of data I present. So that there is obviously an objective truth, but this is in the way in which this truth is presented. It might always have an aspect that related about how I present this. And we need to be aware of it. Also, there is, and this is my last comment on this, there is a research made by historical books in the USA, and this is history books that used in the schools. And they found out that based on the country, based if the country is left or right, the same facts were presented slightly different. Not the data, obviously, but how they framed some facts. So that it's very easily, to color some data in different ways. And it is going to happen all the time, but we need to be aware. And even if I write something, it's always my point of view. The way I am telling the story is my obviously point of view. And if we know this, I think we can navigate much better. Also in the world where artificial intelligence is going to offer much more challenging in this.
Thank you very much. If there are some questions, also this is the time. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Lina, for having this little chat at this event on Fair News. This is a very important topic, especially now, and the diverse channels of information are changing. So it's important that we keep up, but also that we learn how to consume news and to stop the spread of misinformation and so on. So I want to thank everybody who's still here for joining us today. And I shared the link of the website also. It's www.fairnews.eu of the project. You can learn more about it through our website. And yeah, thank you again for joining us, and thank you, Nina, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.